Welcome to our Let's Talk TriDelta podcast. I am Mindy Tucker, TriDelta's interim CEO, and I'm so excited today to welcome our guest, Leah Burton, from our Epsilon chapter at Knox. Leah was a standout collegiate leader. She was the chapter president of her chapter there. She's currently serving TriDelta as we look to the future of TriDelta's foundation and look at how it might grow its support so we can increase the ways that we help all of our members. She continues to excel in her role as Chief Advancement Officer at U.S. Soccer. That's going to be fun to dig into with her today. We'll dig into her career, her passion for philanthropy, and how she somehow balances it all with two crazy kids at home that I know she loves. And we'll talk about all of that. Leah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Mindy. It's great to be here. And hello to all of the TriDelta listeners and friends who might be tuning in.
So let's start out today talking about your collegiate journey and how you ended up at Knox and what really drew you to TriDelta.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to be raised in a house of academics where education was always incredibly important. And when I was thinking about college, my parents really encouraged me to think about a small liberal arts experience. Because of the skill sets and competencies that would provide about learning how to think, asking critical questions, and knowing that there was probably going to be another degree in my future. And I originally was born in Illinois. Both of my parents are from there. And so wanted to return to the Midwest for college, and Knox was a great fit. Little did I know that my parents had mutual friends with the president then and his wife. And fast forward, it sort of became a full circle moment when I found out after I had matriculated to Knox that the president's wife was also a TriDelta, something she kept very close to her chest, so as not to, impart any sort of bias, as she was stellar. But I loved my experience. I think the size of Knox allowed me to experience a variety of things, obviously TriDelta and my sorority experience. But I also was a 3-sport athlete participating in soccer and both indoor and outdoor track and field, was able to serve as class president. And so it was really an exceptional experience. And I still maintain so many close TriDelta and just greater Knox friendships to this day. And it was an incredible place to go to school.
Wow, you balanced a lot in college. It sounds like you're still doing what you did then, which is balancing a lot of activities. You were the collegiate chapter president and as an athlete. That's a lot to have on your plate. How was that being an athlete inside TriDelta?
Yeah, I think that's actually what drew me to TriDelta in the first place. Is I was lucky enough that when I was a freshman, Knox has deferred recruitment. They're on a trimester system. So it was after winter break that we went through recruitment. And I had spent the whole fall season with my soccer teammates and several of the upperclassmen who I looked up to, who were incredible mentors to me, were also TriDeltas. And so they said, hey, you should go through recruitment. And a number of my other friends who I had met sort of first trimester were also going through. And so really, I think that those peer examples help support my interest. I don't come from, my other family members weren't in Greek life at all. And so this was sort of a new experience. But I think I was drawn to the sisterhood almost immediately. And certainly the experience that Epsilon chapter at Knox really fostered and the group of friends that I was able to build and maintain.
Yeah. The collegiate experience goes with you so long and sticks with you and ends up being your friends for life and just experiences that you take with you. What is your passion around TriDelta's foundation? It's so great that you're a part of these discussions we're having now about how we grow the foundation and grow its impact on our members. What's your passion there? What makes you passionate to do that work?
Yeah, I think, it really stems from the fact that I'm really passionate about organizations that serve women. I'm passionate about the impact that TriDelta has had in my own life and the ability to also have such a positive impact on future generations. And knowing that challenges and experiences that I had are going to be different from those in the future, but that TriDelta is very future focused on how it can best serve its members, both in its collegiate experience, but also as an alumni member, and also thinking about what membership means in sort of this life continuum. I'm continually impressed by the way TriDelta shows up in life's hardest moments. I think about some of my own collegiate sisters who had no place to turn other than TriDelta. And so I'm hoping that we can continue to provide and serve all of our members in whatever life moment, good, bad, happy, indifferent, with support. And I think the foundation is one demonstrable way that we can wrap our arms around this together and continue to lead with some of the things that Tri Delta instills in us as collegiate members to serve others, to continue to, uh, make the world a better place, I think, at the end of the day. And so I'm really excited about the work the foundation is doing today and some of the plans for the future. And I know some of that will be shared by other members of the team in probably future episodes, but it's a really exciting moment. And so I hope others are seeing that as well.
Yeah, it is an exciting time to be having those conversations, realizing the impact we can have. I was on a webinar this week and I learned that only 2% of the giving in this country goes toward women causes around women and girls. And it sort of blew me away that it was that low to serve 50% of the population. That's, less than 2% of the giving. And so you've touched on that. And I think it's a great segue into your career, which is Chief Advancement Officer at US Soccer. I'd love to hear more about how you've taken that passion for women and girls and put it into this particular career and what you're doing. I think people are like, okay, great. What does that mean? What is she doing for
Yeah.
US? Let's talk about that.
So similar to my passion for the foundation, I have worked in philanthropy my entire career, either as a frontline fundraiser or as a consultant, and I've worked for some amazing organizations. And right now I have the distinct pleasure of serving at US Soccer, the United States Soccer Federation, as its first Chief Advancement Officer. I took this role in July of 2023 when I was 34 weeks pregnant with my second child. And so came on board, quickly onboarded for 5 weeks, and then welcomed Trey into the world at the end of August and went out on leave. And so it's really been this last year that I've been in this role building out the philanthropic strategy for US Soccer. Not many people know that it's a 501c3 nonprofit. We're known as the governing body of the sport, but really what does that mean? It means that we steward soccer in all of its forms in this country, and we're really in service to the sport. And so your youth grassroots soccer league is a member of US Soccer, just like the professional leagues and clubs. And then obviously we field 27 national teams across our youth national teams, obviously most notably our senior men's and women's national teams who are so beloved. But then also we're the world leader in disability soccer. And so we're incredibly proud for that fact. So I've been building out a fundraising team, scaling it. And I'm so excited when you think about the big moments that are coming up. We have the Men's World Cup in 26 on our shores, hopefully a Women's World Cup in 31. And we're building the first ever training facility, National Training Center for Soccer in our country, which is the Arthur M. Blank US Soccer National Training Center and headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. And I think most recently, I'm really proud. Obviously, there's lots of moments, there's lots of donors that are making US Soccer's vision possible. But most recently, about 2 weeks ago, we announced a $30 million investment in our Women and Girls program from Michelle King, who is obviously an incredible individual in her own right, successful businesswoman, owner of several clubs. Here in the United States, she's one of the owners of the Washington Spirit and the NWSL. But seeing that sort of investment in women and girls soccer, and I grew up playing the sport, right? So that was me, and so investing in those future generations, similar to what Tri Delta is doing, is really compelling. And I'm just so grateful to be a part of US Soccer at this moment, and seeing the role that soccer plays for societal good.
I feel like women's sports in general is having a moment. Just you take college basketball, you take gymnastics, whatever it is, like the stories are being told more and more. The accomplishments are being seen. I think there's a lot of discussion around parity. Are you seeing that? I mean, obviously you just talked about a $30 million investment. It feels like you're seeing that, but I feel like it's happening all over, and it's not just one particular sport. It's just a renewed interest or a new interest in women's sports.
Yeah. I mean, I love seeing it. I certainly think it's a moment for women's sport overall. You see the economics are following that within the marketplace. But I like to say US Soccer has always been ahead of the curve when you think about the fact that our women's national team has won 4 World Cups. And I think back to just the impact that some of these teams have had. The 1999 Women's World Cup team And their win at the Rose Bowl is a memory that I'll have forever in my mind. And I think, gosh, we've always had these powerhouse individuals. I think about the 1985 team who's about to have their 40th anniversary, who established our women's national team program, and just like the foundation that these women have set in a moment where, they probably weren't getting the light shone on them in the way that they should, but without that foundation, we wouldn't be where we're at today. So I'm incredibly grateful, just like I think about the generations of Tri Delta women that have come before me, thinking about the future that we're also laying. If we don't do the work now, we're never going to get to that place in the future. But it's really been incredible, I think, for women's sport overall, and particularly where I sit within the soccer landscape.
You do such a great job of telling the story. I'm inspired just listening to you. I love that. I think they've got a great ambassador at US Soccer. You also have another role that I think is kind of fun to learn about. You are an adjunct professor at Columbia University. Tell us about that and what you teach and what made you want to do.
Yeah, no, I am really grateful. As I said, I came from a family of academics, so I think this has always been in my blood, probably just based on the house that I was raised in and the influence of those who raised me. And I'm lucky enough to teach a few courses at Columbia University's School of Nonprofit Management, really with a fundraising focus. So I teach an introduction to fundraising, sort of a 101 class. Nonprofit governance I've taught, as well as campaign major gifts, principal giving, which is so prevalent that we're seeing across all organizations. And so it's great. It keeps me sort of on the top of my game, I say, and I love interacting with students. I am a lifelong learner, and so I think this really is something that I love to participate in. I've had to take a step back with some work and personal happenings, obviously having a couple small children at home. But always try and, participate at least one semester a year in, teaching one of these courses. And I've been really lucky enough to have exceptional students. I've had some Tri Deltas in my class who they found out I was a Tri Delta. They reached out to me, which is incredible to make that connection as well.
Yeah. I think you get a lot of energy from being around our collegiate members. That's what I see. And you probably get the same thing from your classes. It's new ideas and fresh thinking, and you bringing them the knowledge, but that pairing together can be so powerful. I think energizing for you, even in your career and where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a big fan of learning from different sectors, right? So I work in sport right now, but my previous role was in arts and culture. And before that, I worked as a consultant. And before that, I was in healthcare. And so I think a variety of perspectives is so incredibly important in any organization that you're a part of, right? You don't want someone who only has the experience that you have, only thinks the way you do. And so I've used that same thought process as I'm building my team at US Soccer is, I've hired people from sort of non-traditional sport background and some from traditional to come together and to really push the envelope of how we're thinking about things, that it's not just lather, rinse, repeat, or, oh, we're going to deliver something because we see another organization doing it this way. It's like, no, we're really going to think creatively and about this moment that US Soccer's in and how we build a really strong philanthropic program.
Yeah, good. So you talk a lot about philanthropy. You talked about sort of this being a thread throughout your life. How did you get into it? How did it start? Where do you think that came from at the beginning? And what are some of the other places where you've been able to sort of exercise that muscle?
Yeah, I always talk about, one day I'm going to run like a huge PR campaign about careers in philanthropy, because I think no one grows up saying, I want to be a fundraiser, I want to work for a foundation or an organization. And so I think, in future somewhere, maybe I can think about some of that. But I think back, and philanthropy has always been a part of my life. It was something that was incredibly important within my family, something that my father and my mother instilled in me and that we participated in as a family, and supporting organizations we were passionate about. I also think growing up, going to church and learning about giving back and some of those opportunities certainly was an influence in my life. And then most notably, obviously, Tri Delta, the experience that you have around our philanthropic purpose and our partnership with ALSAC and St. Jude Children's Research Hospital was incredible. And I was lucky enough where, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I went to school thinking that this was what I was going to do. This is how I was going to make a difference in the world. And my parents really encouraged me that before I made a decision of going to law school, like go take a gap year, do something else. And I ended up taking a job for St. Jude and never looked back. I was like, I love this. And so I really owe Tri Delta a lot in terms of that. My parents were like, we knew you would tough it out at law school, but you probably wouldn't have been the most fulfilled. And so I'm so grateful for Tri Delta for, opening those doors
Ah,
and exposing me to philanthropy. And then fast forward, I've worked for these amazing organizations, like St. Jude, obviously, an organization that I still support to this day, even though I don't work there. But other places like the Guggenheim Museum, and then my work as a consultant, and fast forward to today at U.S. Soccer.
wow. I love that story. I always say I think we're growing up a whole generation of philanthropists through our work with St. Jude and the work that our collegiate chapters do. They learn how to give back. They learn how to ask others for money. They learn how to tell the story to raise the money. And I think it's great to see them go on and leverage those skills to do good in the world and raise funds and support organizations that are doing good in the world. So I love it that that's one of Tri Delta's legacies, that we've sort of
Yeah.
raised up this whole generation, or every year we're raising a whole new generation of philanthropists. So, and you are proof of that right here. So
Absolutely. And I think too, even if you don't end up in a career, I would imagine that most Tri-Deltas are civically minded, thinking about kind of, how they're supporting their community anyways. I don't know if there's been a study done, you probably know better than I, but most of my Tri-Delta sisters are involved in philanthropy still to this day through organizations that they're passionate about, whose missions sort of align with their values. And I think that that's really important is Tri Delta teaches you about sort of value aligned thinking as well. Yeah, and it's something you don't realize while you're in the moment. You're not sort of thinking about, oh, having purpose behind what I do is really important. You're like, this is great. I'm, part of a sisterhood, but I think it's far less, you're far less mindful maybe of the intentionality behind some of what you're learning. So, yeah.
yeah, we do know that Greek members are definitely more apt to give to their schools, to the universities, philanthropically. We also know that of our 2,500 volunteers, most of them are giving or volunteering for another organization as well,
Yeah.
not just Tri Delta. So I think you're right. I think it's a skill, it's a mindset. You're purpose driven from your experience here. So
Yeah.
you are doing a lot, and I know one of the questions I get all the time, one of the questions you probably get all the time is how are you balancing everything? So many women are facing, choices about kids and aging parents and all the things that we're all looking at all the time. So I'll ask you the question, how do you balance everything? What are your tricks and
Yeah.
tips?
I think you've got to throw balance out the window. I mean, like, what
Right.
is balance, right? Be kind to yourself here. And I've learned a lot too, right? I think since becoming a parent almost 4 years ago, being married for, 5 years to an incredible partner. And I think that's the root of it is I have an incredible support system around me. And we really talk about it in our family as not like work-life balance, but really work-life integration. And so there will be no perfect balance. I learned from a mentor of mine very early on that there's this concept that we always feel like we have to be a great mother and a great partner and a great, person at work in whatever role we're in. And one of the things I learned very early on is you can't be great at everything at one time. And
Yeah.
so when I'm hyper focused at work, I'm hyper focused at work, but my children are in the best possible hands where I know those people are loving and caring for them just like I would if I was with them. And I have to be okay with that. Like that's
Yeah.
just how it works, and vice versa. When I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids. And I'm very intentional about prioritizing my time with them. And it does mean that I have to deprioritize other things, unfortunately. But I think I'm in a season of life where a lot of my friends are in the same shoes. And so what I've really appreciated is there's kind of this no judgment thing. Recently I was supposed to go on a girls' trip and I had to cancel. I said, guys, I'm traveling the 3 days before, I'm traveling the 3 days after. So it'd mean that I'm like away from my kids for 9 days. I just can't stomach that. And they totally got it. And like, it was so sweet. They actually sent me something from the trip, like, we're just thinking of you. But like, that's the
Aw.
type of people that I think having that support system. I have an amazing husband, amazing partner, amazing family, and amazing kind of, new family that we've met in terms of caretakers and people that are incredibly loving to our family. And so we really rely on that. I'm also, as my husband said in his vows at our wedding, which gives you a glimpse into to me, is that we live and breathe by our family shared calendar. So every Sunday we have a family planning meeting, whether it's in person because we're both in the same place or somehow, and we say, okay, here's the week ahead. Here's who's doing what. Here's who's got the kids. Here's what's for dinner. Here's where we're going to need takeout. Here's where we've got too much going on and we need to like cancel a few things. And I definitely experienced a fair share of mom guilt. I was actually, I know we were just talking about, I was on a trip and my 15-month-old son got his first set of stitches, and like that's mom guilt, right? Not being there at that moment, but I'm working through it. I miss things, but I really try and be present where and when I can. And I also have learned just to lean into the chaos, right? I've got a 3.5-year-old and a 15-month-old. There is no human who's not going to have that situation feel that it's a little chaotic. And so I'm really trying to make the moments count and, be there when and where I can, but it's imperfect. And I think, yeah, as someone who tried to control a lot for so long, being very gracious with yourself helps a lot. But I'm still learning. I think we all are.
Yeah. I had the recent, the photo came of the championship ring from flag football, and I was on a work trip that weekend, and you just get that pit in your stomach. Like, I've missed it. I've missed this moment. And I've tried to make, I mean, this is probably one of like maybe 3 games I have missed in his life, but
Yeah.
it's that one. And
Yeah.
you have to give yourself grace.
Well,
And
and I think you're totally right. You have to give yourself grace, and you're going to miss those moments, but you're going to be around for other great ones. And I think about like my mom traveled and my mom worked, and I don't remember that, right? I remember the great moments. And so that's what I try to remind myself of. And I also have been very intentional about working in workplaces and cultures that really support working
right.
parents. And so I think the fact that I was hired at 34 weeks pregnant as a C-suite
Yeah.
executive in a company, knowing that I was going to take 4 months leave, like to me, that showed all that I needed to in terms of, when I needed to get on that flight home early from London, my boss was the first person texting to check in and make sure that I was okay and was like, we got this, right? So I think those are the things that become really important as a part of that support system as well.
I'm glad you went back to that, because I remember when you said it thinking, wow, they took they invested in her and let her be a mom and let her prioritize that when she needed to. And not every company would do that. So
Yeah.
finding those places where we can be successful and be a mom is huge.
Yeah.
And you talked about your husband playing a huge role in it. And I love that you guys are such a partnership, and because I think it does take a village around you to make it work. And he's obviously a critical part of that village.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
He's the
shout out
best.
to his husband.
Shout out to Kevin and my sorority sisters who will maybe hear this at one point would also give him a shout out because he's incredible and so beloved by all who meet him. But he is the consummate teammate and supporter, and I think that was something that we talked about a lot as we were dating, and then as we were on the path to getting married, and then subsequently as we were establishing our family. That communication is so key. I'm also lucky now. So he also works in sports and is an athletic director. And so we now share a sector that we work in, which is nice because I think before when I worked in some other sectors, he appreciates art, but maybe not to the level that I do. And so I think he enjoys that. But we really do make all decisions as a family. So when I took this role at US Soccer, when he took a new role. He also teaches at NYU. And so when we make any of these decisions, when we think about those family planning meetings, as cheesy as they sound, like we're making these decisions as a family. And we do push back on one another. It's not just like, okay, this is great. Like I'm burnt out, right? I think it's Brene Brown or someone that's like, I'm at a 10. Like I need
Yes.
you to like raise that.
Where are
sometimes
you
we have to
today?
have those honest conversations. And like today, I've been traveling this week and it's been busy. And I was like, hey, we've got coverage for the kids tonight. Do you want to go out and do something? He's like, no, you need to stay home. Like you need to, and so it's having that sounding board, and also being able to say no sometimes because it's hard. You want to be everywhere, be everything to everyone. But he's a good reminder to me of like, as I say, he's the chill to my zero chill sometimes. So we make a good partnership. So I'm very, very, very lucky to have him.
So I'm curious as we close, like if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh gosh. I think if I could give myself one piece of advice, it'd be kind of the importance of having a strong support system around you. And that might look different, right? For some people, it's their parents. For some people, it's their sorority sisters. For some people, it's professor or a friend or a colleague. But really building a support system around you for those moments that you can lean on, because there's a lot of really great moments where you're going to be celebrating, but there's a lot of hard ones too. And we're talking a lot about positive things today, but I would be remiss if I said there aren't a lot of really hard moments in life that like no one prepares you for. And so that becomes important. I think being all right in the imperfection and sort of the painful moments and learnings, and thinking like, gosh, have the grit and grind to get through this, but then thinking about, okay, in the future, here's how I'm going to approach something, but being okay in that moment of like, this is not perfect, but it's going to be okay. And then I always think about, and I've had some recent reminders in, personal things is, prioritize what's most important in each moment, right? Life is short. You never know what's going to happen one day to the next, and like really feel fulfilled in what you're doing and prioritize each moment to its fullest. And, be kind to yourself, give yourself grace, and understand that, there are going to be tough moments, but there are going to be great ones, and hold on to those great ones and savor them and surround yourself with that support system during those times.
Well, thanks, Leah, for joining us. What a great story to hear. We'll all be watching her success at US Soccer and continuing to enjoy having her involved with growing TriDelta's foundation. Now, for you, when you're out there and you're paying your alumni dues, we have some exciting new benefit options this year. So encourage everybody to go check it out at tridelta.org/dues-and-benefits. And you can see all the new things that you can take advantage of when you pay your alumni dues. Please like, subscribe, and rate our podcast. We love those 5-star ratings. And thanks for joining us today. Until next time, Delta Love.